Hi, this is Heather. Is anyone on?
Hi, this is Premal.
Hello.
Hi. This is Anna Lila.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, this is Ashley Winterstrom.
Hey, Ashley.
Hi, everyone. Mabola is here, and I'm also here with Lauren.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. We're just waiting on a few more people who are at CP. So we'll give them...
Susan Hasty. Hello?
Hi, Susan.
Hi, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Amuna.
Hi, Amuna. How are you? Welcome.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
We're waiting on a few more people. We'll start in a couple minutes.
Sure, no problem. I'll just step out for a second, be right back.
While we're waiting, I hope the weather is better. For most people here in Chicago, it's warming up. So we're very excited. We're hoping it stays warm by May when you all come visit us.
Got to be warmer than Minnesota.
Getting a little better in Cleveland, so we're taking that as a win.
I want to tell you what the temperature is in Texas.
I will also decline to comment on the weather in New Orleans.
Okay. Go ahead and get started. We have a packed agenda, and hopefully we'll be able to get through it in the hour. So we'll start off with just to check in with everyone to see how things are going. So almost everyone signed up already for their roles, and you've been participating in the education collection as well as a few other roles. How are things going? Are there any concerns, questions, any issues?
Do you want to call on people because we can't see each other, or how do you want to do this?
No, just feel free to chime in because I have a few names here, but I'll open it up and feel free to chime in.
Okay, well, since I started, this is Susan Hasty from Minneapolis, Hennepin County. I joined the Curriculum Review Committee, and it looks like a great committee. And I've been partnered with somebody so I can get a little bit of coaching or mentoring in this. My only issue is that the meeting scheduling is such a short turnaround time that I'm having trouble with that because I have to, today I had to cancel patients and it's challenging. I need more lead time.
That's good to know. How long of a notice would be helpful or would be ideal?
Well, a month is workable. I mean, if I really wanted to time it well, I'd say 3 months, and I know that's unrealistic. But I'm getting like 2 weeks. This call I got like a week notice, so that's too short. But a month is comfortable. I could make that work somehow.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yep, this is Amuna.
Ramona?
Hi, this is Erin Goss. I echo that. I also joined the curriculum review committee, but was unfortunately not able to join that the first meeting. So I'm going to review some of the materials, later this week and get started. But I also agree that getting a little bit more advanced notice would make it more easily for me to participate.
Would a month's notice also be good, or even longer?
I think I agree that would be helpful.
Yeah, this is Ashley Darcy Mahoney. I agree. That would be great.
Yeah, same for me. This is Elizabeth Painter in Cleveland, and the 2-week turnaround this time around is going to be a little rough.
And Elizabeth, you're talking about the resources now for the meeting for the education collections?
Yes. Yeah, the review
This is Heather,
of the
by the way.
Yes.
Yes. And I apologize for that. Claire and I just talked about that, and our goal is going to be to give a month's turnaround time. Part of the issue's been that, it's been difficult because what that's going to mean is that over time, you're going to be told the resources for the next month when we haven't had our meeting for the prior month yet. But I think that's okay.
Oh, I see.
As long as,
Gotcha.
you know what I mean? So the idea was let's get them all cleared and then start over. But then that in terms of work schedules, that doesn't leave enough time. So probably you'll get a message that says, okay, here's your resources for March, and we look forward to talking to you February, end of February, about the prior resources. But I think that'll be okay.
Yeah, it's going to work. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Heather.
And honestly, I haven't done it yet, so I assume that'll work. That sounds great.
Great. This is good feedback. Anyone else? Okay. So we'll move on to number 2 on the agenda, which is quarterly housekeeping issues. So we're trying to come up with dates ahead of time. Again, just to echo what you're saying, giving you enough time to schedule these meetings into your busy schedules would be helpful. However, we know not everyone is free on the third Tuesday from 3 to 4, and so we're trying to figure out the best way to come up with our quarterly meeting schedule, meeting dates, realizing it only happens 4 times a year. And so would it help if we sent off a few dates ahead of time, or would you like it to be scheduled on a specific day of the week, the third Wednesday of the week, every quarter, the 4th month? So a little confusing, but if you look ahead to June, which is going to be our next meeting, we could say it's the third Tuesday or the third Wednesday. Would that help, or should we just send out some dates that we feel would be feasible to most people?
Well, the more
This is
lead time,
Ashley.
the better.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This is Ashley from George Washington. As long as you give me enough time, I can usually move things to make whatever work. I just need, if you give me the times, I can usually figure it out.
Okay.
Generally speaking.
So we could send out a doodle way ahead of time, send out a doodle with a few different dates, and then folks have a chance to vote as long as it's enough leeway.
Yeah,
well, for me, this is Susan again. If there's enough lead time, June, we're talking 3 months in advance. I can arrange my schedule around it. So the particular day matters less than the fact that I have 3 months to plan ahead, which is really nice.
Right.
And this is Erin. I was also going to suggest, would other people feel comfortable scheduling out, the rest of our quarterly meetings for 2019, or is there too much chance that things might change later on? Is that an option?
It's definitely an option.
Yeah.
This is Mamuna from UIC.
I think it would be helpful to at least schedule the June meeting. I don't know about the rest of the year just because my schedule is so volatile.
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk
Okay.
about it in May.
We can do that. We will, within the next week, you'll get an email for the June dates. Please vote on the poll, and that way we can put it on the books, and then we'll talk about the additional dates for the rest of the year in May. So that works.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
because for June, I know now that I will be out in that week, the week of the 10th. But other than that, if we schedule it in advance, I can move my other meetings around.
Sounds good. Good. Okay, so the next item, which is a stipend, I will turn things over to Claire. I know she's been requesting W-9.
So if you haven't already submitted your W-9 to me, I sent that out, I believe, last week. If you would like me to forward the email to you again, please let me know. But otherwise, if you can submit your completed W-9, and then I can get the next part of the paperwork finished so we can get these going. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask now, or you can email me directly.
Claire, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
This is Elizabeth from Cleveland. So I got the email that asked me to do, to sign up for an account and to do all of that, and I did all of those things, but then nothing happened. So I don't know that I ever got that form, but I'm not sure I'm not doing something horribly incorrect.
I did. I sent it to secure route, so it could have.
Sorry, it was in the calendar invite. That's where I found it.
Yes, it was with the meeting and it was all one email. But I'm happy. I can just email it to you directly.
If you don't
today.
mind. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Not at all. No, not at all. Did everyone else receive it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I did.
Yeah.
I suppose the missing ones, maybe you could just individually let them know.
Yes.
Ashley?
This is Ashley. Just a point of clarification so I can understand. I work for a state institution, so we have lots of complicated rules about reporting any funds that we receive. So this is a stipend that's intended to cover our travel. Is that correct, or is the travel covered separately?
It is intended to cover travel and your stay during the spring work.
And then there's the meeting in Chicago, and is there another in-person meeting at another time?
No, it is one meeting a year.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks. Just needed to clarify because I'll have to fill out all kinds of forms and want to make sure I'm saying the right thing. Thank you.
Great. So Heather is on the line, and she will speak to the education collection update.
Yes, hi. So thank you, those of you who are involved in some way in the education collection. I think we had a nice meeting where about 4 people called in, but then there were some others that weren't able to call in, but we still welcome you. And we're pretty excited about the collection, which is growing. And so essentially what we've been doing is reviewing, Claire's been calling MedEd Portal to make sure that anything related to social determinants of health that's on MedEd Portal is on our radar and that we've reviewed it. And that was sort of the lowest hanging fruit and also very high quality stuff. And so we are working our way through and have done most of what's on MedEd Portal, and we'll continue with new stuff. And then the next harder goal is sort of going out and finding other curricula that maybe didn't submit to MedEd Portal, didn't maybe meet the bar for in terms of the rigor of the analysis of the curriculum, but are still really good curricula. And those we have been able to find quite a few just by doing kind of Google searches that I've been doing, and also by things that are just found. But we have now reviewed, I think, Claire, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we've reviewed 154 resources, and we've posted like 98 of them. So about 2/3 of the ones that we have reviewed, we've posted. And typically, resources that don't get posted are either not really a curriculum, they're sort of a description of a curriculum that you couldn't actually implement, or they are very outdated, or have sort of erroneous information, usually because they're very outdated. And so that's the most common reasons for rejecting curricula. And so reviewing them is still in full force, and I'm very excited that we're going to exceed 100 publications or 100 curricula. I apologize, you guys. I'm actually walking to my house because I thought I was coming on a little bit later and the bus was late, so I'm sorry if it's very noisy. But anyway, we are about to exceed 100 curricula, and we just want to keep going. But I think once we get over 100, I feel like that's a time to really start advertising. And one of the nice things that we have now is a submission portal, but I don't think that we've had anybody submit curricula yet. And so we're really hoping that we can sort of drum up business for people to submit their curricula. And I think we have some nice language that says we'd love to look at your curriculum. We don't accept every curriculum that's submitted, but we would love a chance to review yours. And so I guess I'm wondering if anybody on the phone has either, I think some of you actually have told me that you either have submitted or will submit a curriculum. And so I think we just haven't, I'm not sure that those have been posted yet, but has anybody else on the line got curricula that they think that they would like to submit for us to look at and probably publish?
This is Ashley.
Yes.
I actually just finished a toolkit for the National League for Nurses that they're about to post on their website. So I have two questions related to this. One is it all right if something that's posted somewhere else, I think they will agree to it. It's a curriculum on implementing pediatric adversity and social determinants of health into nursing curriculum. That's sort of the point of it. So just a brief overview. And so would you post it if the National League for Nurses has already done so? Because I know
yes, definitely.
For example.
Yeah, right. No, that's a good point. Yes, I mean, that's kind of almost everything is kind of linking to another place where things are posted. The difficulty comes when it's posted and it costs. So then
Right, no, it's free, so all good.
This is free, so that all works really well. And even if it does cost, I think that if it costs if it costs a modest amount, we will buy it, review it, and then say this, post about it and say it costs something if you want to buy this. But when they're very expensive, it makes it more tough. But yours is free, so that's wonderful. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And yours is it's a toolbox. It's a curriculum for developing. Tell me again, what is the toolkit for?
So it's for incorporating like pediatric adversity and social determinants of health into nursing curriculum. So for example, I put PowerPoints and videos, objectives, interactive case studies, like things that anybody, I mean, it's for nurses because it's geared towards the National League for Nurses, but it's really for anybody. I mean, it could be any health professional.
Oh my gosh.
It's not.
Yeah.
There's the only thing in there that's maybe really nursing specific is some of the trauma-informed care, but frankly, that is cross-disciplinary too. So I was actually just having this conversation because I was talking to people. They're like, you should post it on MedEd portal, but I can't because it's posted on the National League for Nurses, which is where I want it to be, because frankly, not a lot of us go to MedEd portal for anything, although I think we should and could. But given, that it's run by the Medical Association and it's called MedEd portal, it's not, people don't think of it for nursing curriculum, albeit I think it definitely could be. Anyway, so I'm glad this could go here because I've been a little bummed out that it can't go in MedEd portal because it's posted on a nursing website, which seems counterproductive to interdisciplinary anything. But
well, I'm thrilled that we don't have, exactly because MedEd portal has been our first and easiest to attain fruit. We don't have enough at all for health professionals who are not physicians and physician extenders. We need stuff for nurses. So I think, and that's our goal too. So I think that is wonderful. We would love, I'm sure it's excellent, and we will we will take a look at it. And then, we typically write like a little summary. You may have seen these, and we don't write anything that's real negative, but we might write, caution, this is intended for nurses, but we think would be, it would be appropriate for other health professionals or something like that. That's great.
And we can talk offline because, like I said, it's going to be published this month, and then I'm going to do a webinar for one of the publishing agencies, like the book publishing ones that NLN has agreements with in May. So if there's any overlap that I can, say, hey, also check out these resources in that webinar, I'm happy to do that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great. So did you did you say you had two totally separate resources? Were you going to talk about another one, or because that one sounds huge?
No, that's one, and then I'll see if I can find other nursing ones, and I'll send them along.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Anyone else have curricula that they might feel like maybe this might be appropriate? Not sure, but might be willing to submit?
I had mentioned on the other call, this is Susan Hasty, that I was planning to send something in. We just had some small crises show up, so it hasn't landed yet. It'll get there.
Okay.
Rotation.
I hear you. I hear you.
I can submit our curriculum for the programs that we run here at UIC.
Terrific. If you go onto the SDOHeducation.org and then click on Education's Collection, the very first thing that you'll see is submit a curriculum. And so if it feels like if you have any questions about the submission, kind of questions you can ask me or Claire, we definitely don't want a very high bar, especially for our COP members, to be able to submit something and have us take a look. So that's great. And then the other big part, besides reviewing and submitting, is like adopting. So I don't want to put anyone on the spot now and say, are you willing to adopt? But I just would encourage you to look at what's online. And as you begin to think about, the next big thing that you're going to do, if there's anything that we are already posting that you can adopt so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and then can talk to us about what it was like to kind of implement that. I think the sort of implementation part of this is actually really interesting to people, and sort of the feasibility of this, and it gives us a lot of great feedback about how this is actually being used. I think it's exciting, and I think our group of Northwestern reviewers has been of varying degrees of rigor. So we've had curricula rejected and curricula accepted by like pairs of people, and then we will talk about it as a group and tend to want to be kind of generous in terms of accepting curricula. But one of the big things that we're finding is, use of terminology changes a lot. So something that was cultural competence, which is now cultural humility, like it really is not the terminology that's used. But if it's a wonderful resource, can you put that as a disclaimer, like we're using different terminology now, but you can learn a lot from this curriculum. So that's kind of some of the things that we're dealing with. So I think that's it. Mabola, were there other things you wanted me to update on?
No, that was great. Those are the major questions we had. Thank you.
Great.
So the other updates we have are about the webinars and Twitter chats. We had a wonderful webinar today. I'm not sure if anyone was able to join, but it was on expanding diversity, transgender actors, and their role in undergraduate medical curriculum. We had about 70 people join us in the webinar, and it was a great discussion. And so these webinars are every other month, and our next one will be in May. We are looking to do something on interprofessional social determinants of health education, and I know Ashley's doing one. We might be speaking to Ashley offline soon, but I would love for folks to either participate or join or share the webinars with your colleagues at your different institutions. And then our Twitter chats are quarterly, and we had one about a month ago, which we co-hosted with our Penn colleagues on mental health. It was very well received. There was a lot of discussion, and we're looking to have another one in, I believe, in July.
May.
In May.
We have one coming up in April, actually. You want me to talk about it?
Can I ask a really silly question?
Yes, go for it.
Thank you. So despite the fact that I'm from the generation that should know this, what exactly is a Twitter chat?
Oh, okay. So a Twitter chat is essentially a set time when people all over the world can come together on Twitter, and you essentially are able to interact, answer questions, communicate around a specific topic. Whoever's hosting the Twitter chat will send out a series of questions, usually over the course of an hour. And there are different organizations that do this, different groups. I usually participate in the Harvard Macy Twitter chat, and we are trying to institute something where it's a quarterly, somewhat of a meeting of the mind over the internet, over on Twitter. It's been a great
super cool. I mean, I have a Twitter account. I just didn't even know you could do that. Neat.
Oh, yes, you can. You should email us your Twitter account so we can follow you and you can follow us and just get involved. But NSYS has a Twitter handle, and you can definitely follow us and get updates on Twitter.
Awesome.
What's your Twitter handle? This is Ashley. I'm just looking for it.
Oh, gosh. You're making the assumption that I've used it. Oh, you guys, good.
This is Lauren. So it's capital NU_NCEAS.
Cool. This is Ashley. I've moderated one of the Twitter chats before, so if you need help, I'm happy to do that. So I've done some of the Harvard Macy ones that you referred to. I moderated one of the HMI chats last year, so I'm happy to help.
Great. Thanks, Ashley.
And thank you for answering my question.
It's Heather. Can I just add to that? Because I don't know what generation Elizabeth is from, but I feel very old, and I do not feel that comfortable with it. But the one little thing is, like, if you do nothing else, what you do is you go to Twitter and you type in the hashtag that will be given by the Twitter chat, and then you can just follow all of, and they should use unique hashtags so that you're just, when you've got a hashtag up, it's just scrolling like all people's answers to questions, and you can answer the question. And you type, like, they'll say like Q1, and then they'll ask a question, and then you type in A1 if you're answering Q1, and then there'll be Q2, A2, and so forth. Very, very like small amount that I learned about Twitter, but helped me in the last chat. So.
Great. So hopefully everyone, or as many of you, will be able to join us at future chats. And I just got the update that the next one is actually in May, so look out for the announcement very soon. And then our next topic is number 4, our spring meeting. We are very excited to host everyone. I'm hoping that we can get as big of a group as possible. We have a set time for the COP. So while we'll have a lot of programming going on with workshops and plenaries, there's a dedicated time on the schedule for the COP to come together and discuss some of the issues we've already raised, but also, most importantly, talk about the major big COP project which we are planning, which is number 5, and that's best practices for teaching SDOH. If you haven't booked a room yet, please book as soon as possible because the block ends April 5th. Thank you to everyone who signed up for the workshop. Pablo, Mamuna, Felice, Ashley, and Alea, and Mamuna, again, doing her own individual workshop. A variety of topics, all very exciting, and I'm sure everyone will be looking to learn from you guys. And then for number 5, the best practices for teaching SDOH. We'll speak at length during the meeting in the spring, but I just want you guys to start thinking about it ahead of time. We have clinical guidelines for different disease conditions from different professional organizations, but we really don't have anything that speaks to educators about how best to teach social determinants of health. And I think the work we're doing with the education collection has set a great foundation for us to be able to build upon this. It's essentially our literature review and literature search to be able to draw from those curricula we have and try to actually assess and rate the evidence that's available to say what is the best way to teach these different topics relating to social determinants of health. And so more to come during our meeting in May, but just to whet your appetite and start thinking. Out of curiosity, is there anyone that's been involved in actually working on clinical guidelines or best practices of any kind?
A lot of
Do you mean
silence.
like at a national level? Sorry, do
level.
you mean working on clinical guidelines on a national? Oh, then yes, this is Ashley. I've done some work for the Nurse Practitioner Association, the Neonatal Nurse Practitioner Association, on clinical guidelines.
Great.
I mean, I've done some unit level guidelines too, like, within one hospital unit, but I imagine that a bunch of us have probably done that, so that's why I wasn't sure what you meant.
So this is Susan. Are those practice guidelines or teaching guidelines?
So what we're looking
Practice
for
guidelines?
us,
Is there a model for teaching guidelines that we could have as a bounce off place?
so there are some things in the field of education, not specifically in health professions education. And so it will be adapting from both the clinical guidelines as well as our education colleagues.
So
This is
I don't
Heather.
know if anybody-
I know there are some. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, so if anyone has resources for those things, it might be helpful to just have them available at the meeting, so we have a little bit of a framework, or maybe you already have that. I don't know.
We do have some, and I was actually going to send it out ahead of the meeting. So
Great.
whoever is interested could start looking at it before the meeting. But we do have resources available.
Great.
And then I guess in terms of teaching guidelines, I mean, it does a little bit depend on what type of learner you're talking about, but I know for medical students, there are guidelines about other topics like the clinical, I don't know their exact title, but the Association of clinical pathologists has here's what a lab medicine guide, curriculum should look like for students. And obviously all the clerkships have national, or most of the clerkships have sort of national kind of instructions for a clerkship director for creating a medicine clerkship. So we could maybe look at those types of things in addition to obviously practice guidelines and then anything related to social determinants.
Sounds good. Feel free to, anyone who has any resources, please send them directly to me because I'm creating a repository for all these resources that I'll be sending out. And so if you could send it out to me by the 13th of April, I'll be able to collate and send it back out to everyone ahead of the meeting. Other thoughts, comments? Great. So that's all we have on the agenda. Number 6 is essentially a wrap-up with time for questions, comments, whether related to the agenda or miscellaneous. Anything is open. We're open to any questions, comments about NSAS.
Can I ask a really quick curricular question?
Sure.
I was just wondering, now I'm going to do some of the curricular review, so it would probably help if I did that first. But I was just wondering what for you guys constitutes curriculum in terms of how intensive the programming needs to be applicable for to be submitted.
So I think that's a great question, and we've had that question, and I don't know if everyone would say the same thing, but I will say my perspective, which is that it's not about how intensive it is. And actually, some people have wanted to reject the curriculum because, for example, it's an hour lecture about social determinants of health. And they say, well, you cannot teach social determinants of health in 1 hour. Of course you can't. That's ridiculous. But the thing is that if would you rather teach it for an hour or teach it for 0 minutes? And so I feel like the bar is more, is it actually something that a person could walk into a classroom of learners some size with and actually pretty much use? Now, it doesn't mean that the person has to have no knowledge. Some things a person could have no knowledge and it could be just completely, written out for you exactly what to do. And others, you need some knowledge, but is it curricular material? So, but we're not even saying that it has to have, clear objectives, because there's a lot of great stuff online, like little videos that you would want to that are very, very educational, that really introduce a concept that you could really drop into a presentation. And I would even consider something like that. So I think we can be pretty broad in
That's
what
super
we find.
helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions?
One thing I'll just mention that's like one of the latest things we've been thinking about, and I would love to hear this group's opinion on it, and I'll try to be articulate about this. But another reason that we have said no or thought about saying no to some curricula is that, and actually had in the end decided probably not to say no, but to have a disclaimer that's kind of on our page that we're trying to write, that the issue of kind of when we use case-based materials, which almost all curricula do, we may present sort of the members of one demographic group and be talking about one social determinant of health. And it can sort of unintentionally perpetuate a stereotype that, only people who do not speak English have issues with health literacy or something like that. And we really don't want that to be the message, but it would also be rejecting a lot of curricula to say, unless your curriculum kind of really delves into members of multiple populations to show that all populations deal with a social determinant at some level, then, we're not going to have a curriculum. So I'm wondering if anybody has thought about this or has ideas about how we can make sure we don't perpetuate stereotypes, basically, in what we post.
That's a really good point.
So
this
I like
Susan
your
again. Go ahead. Oh, I guess no one's talking. I think that's a really important point, because I have definitely seen learners where they work with, say, Somalis, and they say, well, all Somalis are like this, and they generalize, which is inappropriate. And so maybe that could be put in sort of like a category. So if we get curriculum that are like one population demographic, teaching about one population, maybe they could be clustered together in a subheading where it's, here's a little nugget about Hispanics or poverty or rural or whatever your particular demographic is, so that it has sort of a group disclaimer. This only addresses one aspect of the population. But if you need something, here it is, and here's where we've collected it.
That sounds like that's an interesting thought. I'm trying to figure out both sort of logistically and like how that would work. But I let me think about that as a possibility. Because there are curricula that say that
so
they
I know
are. Go ahead.
This is Anna Lila. I'm sorry to have interrupted. I just wanted to say that when I teach, I often only have time for one case or one example, so it is limited to a single demographic. But then I'll always say, okay, we're talking about cardiovascular health disparities among women, by gender, let me say. But we could just as easily be looking at this by race or ethnicity. And then similarly, we're talking about mental health stigma, but we can just as easily be having this same conversation about stigma associated with poverty. And I think just by leading with a disclaimer and saying, what we're talking about here, this data is real, this data is important, but the burden extends beyond this single demographic.
Right. So I'm sort of trying to think about a disclaimer, at least at first, because I think it might be hard to group things by, this is about this demographic, because usually stuff isn't posted. I'm not seeing a lot that's sort of saying it's just about one demographic. It's just that when you get to the case, it's a single case. And maybe another curriculum about the same social determinant is also dealing with the same, demographic group. And so as a cluster, of curricula, they seem to be, saying that we really only see this in this group. And I know we could do a global disclaimer. If we can put things into smaller groups, let me think about that. But I appreciate what both of you have said. Yeah.
I also think, this is Pramil Patel from UTMB. I also wonder if there's a way to not just within the disclaimer, but maybe after the activity, have the students do some sort of reflection on being able to challenge the narrative that these kinds of social determinants are linked to only one, either ethnicity or socioeconomic class, to challenge them to find examples within their own life, within people that they know, that kind of challenge that narrative. There are some really great, books and short stories and kind of from beyond just the medical literature on just the power of using narrative and how we're, multi-dimensional beings and can't be defined by just, this one thing. So I wonder if we could even incorporate some activities that challenge students to kind of look within themselves, look within their own lives, to be able to identify ways that they themselves challenge some of those biases that might be inherent in teaching social determinants.
Yeah, I love that idea in some way of encouraging people to do that, because even though these are curricula that could be used out of the box, like there also might be some ways to make them, to meld them. And I don't know, it's almost like a toolkit for using these curricula, like, some of the things you might add to them, to any one of them that we could develop. That might be step 2, but it's definitely, it's a great idea.
Maybe that falls under the best teaching practices guideline that we're developing. That idea.
I love that.
It does.
Yeah.
I love it.
This is Ashley Wannerstrom. I was just going to add to that. I think one thing that's really helpful is trying to frame things in terms of policies to help explain why we see such massive differences in various groups. So, I've always used the socio-ecological model to help people understand that we're not, just sort of talking about individual behaviors that cause differences in social determinants, or rather, individual behaviors that are causing differences in health outcomes are due to much larger contextual factors and the sort of policy and community and family environments that people experience.
That's a good point. Really good point.
This is Mamona. So I think these are all great ideas, and I also wanted to share with you guys that there is a group at UIC which is called the Social Justice and Community Disparities Group, and they are putting together an anthology or a book related to all the efforts that are going on at UIC related to social justice and community disparities. So once that takes a little bit more form, then I will share that resource with this group as well. Because I think one of the things that our collaborative could do is to provide links to other published resources. I mean, like you're already collecting, but some of these things are in the pipeline and not yet on the horizon.
That's a great point.
And actually we have, I mean, maybe you know this, but besides the education collection, there's this whole sort of general social determinants collection that we're just kind of using as a kind of catch-all for really important Sentinel works that are not curricula. So there's room for anything really to go there. So if you have things that you think we should be posting, there's really infinite space, I think.
Right, and based on, the earlier discussion, I think one unique thing that our group could do would be to highlight some of the work that is interprofessional as opposed to uni-professional efforts.
That's a great idea.
That's important. Yeah.
This is Ashley Wannerstrom. I just want to ask a couple questions about other resources that might be helpful for framing. So one is there anything that's being posted so far that's specifically about race and racism and that's effect on health? I'm thinking about things like Kamara Jones's work.
Yes, we have been posting on that. Yeah, we have her work on the general social determinants resources as well. And I'm trying to think. I mean, we don't have everything she's ever written, but we have the garden.
Oh, sure. No, I think just like the cliff analogy and like the gardener's tale are super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was also wondering, do we have anything that addresses incarceration as a social determinant of health yet? I think that's one that often gets forgotten, but is tremendously important in a lot of communities.
I'm so glad you asked that because it makes me feel good because this is actually, I'm like an educator, but I'm not, like you guys know so much more about this topic of social determinants. But what we did was by virtue of having this this collection, we could see the topics that people were tagging and nobody was tagging incarceration. So I went to the Google and I did an advanced search for like curricula and all the different ways that the curricula and health, and then incarceration or criminal justice health, or the different ways it's referred to. And I came up with a couple. I go through the first 10 pages of Google that come up when I do these searches. So a couple, but I don't know. They haven't been reviewed yet. I don't know how good they are. And so if you find anything too, let us know. Obviously, and then in terms of the general resources on it that are not curricula, I don't know that we have anything posted.
Okay, I can send you maybe a couple that would be helpful. Area of great interest for me. A lot of my work is related to that. And then also just so it's on your radar, the American Journal of Public Health is about to produce a special, well, actually they have a call for papers for a special issue that's going to be exclusively focused on incarceration as a social determinant of health. So I think it'll probably come out in print either later this year or early next year, but that's something that we can just kind of keep an eye on because I'm sure there will be a lot that's relevant.
Great.
Excellent discussion. Thank you, everyone. Feel free to email any resources you find for the education collection to Heather. Anything else about guidelines and best practices as we get ready for our May meeting, please forward that to me. Look out for an email within the next week about our June quarterly call. And that way we can get a date on the books as soon as possible. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple months. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Any final thoughts?
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.